Welcome back to Rise and Tell with Sheekha. I am Sheekha Singh, your host and author. I have got something special to share. My brand new book, Unburnable Ambition: How Overachievers Win Without Burning Out. This book is for all of us who dream big but refuse to let burnout be the price. Head to shikhasingh.com/unburnable ambition and sign up today. Now let's dive into today's episode. And our guest for today is Marat Omarov. I had such a fun time knowing Marat's ideals and principles and his purpose behind creating the Ark. Marat Omarov is the founder of The Ark, a modern regenerative village in Costa Rica that redefines how we live, build, and thrive together. Before the interview, I went online and checked out Marat's website and everything about the Ark, and I was stumped. As far as Marat goes, he had a successful career and was recognized by the president of Kazakhstan for his leadership at Expo 2017. But then he shifted his focus from performance and career to purpose. He is building the Ark to be a real world blueprint for intentional, profitable, and deeply human living. He is combining regenerative design, shared ownership models, which is fractional ownership, and a conscious community building with the Ark. Marat brings a rare combination of grounded execution, visionary clarity, and my favorite of all, authenticity. Marat's ideas and his purpose were so authentic, and I actually cannot wait for you guys to know more about him. So let's just dive right in. So there you go, everybody. Today we have with us Marat Omarov. Marat, welcome to our show. It's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much, Sheekha. Thank you so much. So nice to meet you.
Same here. I looked through the website of the Ark. And I went through everything in your profile, and it's very impressive. And I cannot wait to start learning about your journey and what made you actually decide that. So we'll start with that question, Marat. When was that pivotal point where you decided, okay, I'm done doing the normal stuff. I'm just going to go to Costa Rica and start a village of my own?
It's well, there was not like I cannot say that the moment when I decided to do the arc, I was living normal stuff. In a sense, I kind of stopped doing normal stuff when I left from Kazakhstan, and it was end of 2017.
Right.
At that time, I was a director of content and events of Expo 2017 Astana. We had a World Expo in Astana, and that's I believe was the last, like I believe it was 27th of December of 2017 when it was like the last moment when I did anything normal, because then I moved to Tulum and to Mexico, and and that put me on this journey to this particular conversation today. So I think that was like, that was the moment when I was like, everything that was surrounding me, including my personal external success, was kind of feeding my ego without nurturing my soul. And I could not live in my true alignment and in my authentic self. And although I could not put it into words back then, I felt it. And this feeling that's what kind of was always pushing me towards something different, abnormal, shall we say. and Mexico was the country that gave me the freedom and hugged me into its beautiful belonging hugs and put me on this path of self-exploration and unlearning and unbecoming and growing into a different person and completely like decoding myself, which is still going on. It's a process. It's been when I left from Kazakhstan, I was like 34, 42. So I think it's like 8 years and going strong.
Nice. That is wonderful. First of all, congratulations, Marat. I don't think what you achieved is, again, I know we've established it's not normal, but I don't think it's an easy feat to just uproot yourself from one place and then try try to find yourself.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people keep talking about it, like find your passion, find who you are, find what you like. But that process is so difficult. And you, in your peak age and where you were at your career, for you to do that is a huge step. So I am curious to know, how scary was it? And how did you overcome that fear?
It was extremely scary, to be honest, and thank you. I think it's not I will go as woo woo as possible about that. And honestly, as much as like, yeah, there is me in the picture, but I believe through all the experiences that I lived in the last whatever 8 years, there is at the same time no me in the picture. It's,
Right.
in a sense, it's if we are just a physical representation of the universe, and then it's just was supposed to happen, like it
Right.
happened, and it's just like, I'm just there to be a certain channel, as all of us. We
Yeah.
are those channels that the universe is creating in particular moment in time and particular place for us to bring certain change to this physical reality. And some of us are just listening to the call and audacious enough to go on this path, and some of us are no, and they're just prefer to kind of patch the calling that is going through you, like with the external success or whatever other things, right? And sometimes this calling is very strong, and sometimes it's maybe weak, and then somebody's succeeding in patching, and then they live all their life with these patches, and somebody just decides to go and just like follow that internal voice and calling. And I know that why I'm saying that a lot of people have it, and moreover that you are from tech, right, Sheekha?
Yes.
So I have so many friends, majority in the US, who work in tech, and when you ask them even what they're doing, and you can see this disconnection of what they do in this 3D reality and from what they really want to do, and they all normally ask like, "Oh, I work in tech," and then you're like, and then there is like, and then they're like, "No, I'm just doing it for money," and it's just like, I hate what I'm doing. And then when you ask them like to say what they're doing, there is zero passion in what they're doing, like zero. And it's like 90% of people, and they're like, yeah, I'm just there for money, and just like, but there's gonna be a moment when I'll start living my real life. So
Right.
we all have it, and then the universe is calling all of us to go for it, right? And but it is a scary, coming back to the question, it is a scary move. And I would, looking back, honestly speaking, I would don't think it was wise of me in a sense to jump on this solitary journey and like, and go through it myself and figure all these things out by myself. Although there were, of course, a lot of friends and tools on the way, but I believe now there are so many resources that people can use if they want to do it. And actually, our first ever retreat that we're producing now in the end of November is actually called True. And it's, one of the tools that we're like inviting people to become their true selves.
Hmm.
So there are many tools, and you don't have to do it alone. It was extremely scary, and at times the main question I believe that was constantly appearing is like, what are you doing with your life? Because it's not like, from day to another you like kind of resigned and you left from your motherland, from your country, and then you're living in a completely different environment, and although that environment is really great and friendly and loving, but at the same time you're like, "Oh, what exactly am I doing?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, and it's not that like, from one day to another you're like, "Oh, now I'm gonna be doing this." No.
Right.
It takes time to deprogram and to become yourself again.
Wow. Wow. That is inspiring. But I'm curious about one thing, Marat. I know you said everybody has this soul sucking job and everyone's in it for the money. How did you overcome that feeling that, we have bills to pay, we have mortgages, we have so many things, but I think you went to Tulum and then you said, okay, that's it. So, what was the beginning of the arc?
Yeah.
How did it start?
Yeah, and I think like it's just coming back also, like it's like not that obviously like we all are in this, right? Like, oh, we all have like this soul sucking thing. Many
Most
people,
of them.
but a lot, right? A lot. We're like, hey, I wanted to do something else with my life, not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I believe also another thing, like to encourage people who will listen and who want to jump on this journey, is that and I know it sounds as woo-woo as it can, but the thing is that the universe has your back. But I
Yes.
believe, like, when you truly align with why you're here, and not that, like, the purpose that you invent from your head, not the purpose that you kind of sit and you write down and you follow, but something that you listen inside and you're like, and this is like, find your passion on whatsoever it is,
Right.
but something that you listen there, then it's just like then the cables connect, and then
Right.
it's just like, everything's gonna start flowing. So anyway, this is the last, just like think about it. And it was pandemic for me personally at the arc. For the arc, I was living in Tulum back then, and I accepted Tulum, or Tulum accepted me. And I accepted Tulum, and Tulum hugged me, and I loved the place so much. And then unfortunately during pandemic, a lot of unconscious developments flooded the town, and it started growing. International airport got open, so like it was not anymore the village or the town that we all loved, and it became kind of party capital of the world. So many of us started asking the reasonable questions, like, is this still aligned with what I am, and what is the next stage if I am
Right.
to have kids ever in life? Is this the place where I want my kids to grow up? And so many of us have left. Some people have stayed, and nature in Tulum is still amazing and beautiful. But yeah, it has changed now. It's a city now. But my kind of vision was that also, it really hurt. It really hurted when you find your home and then this home is taken away from you.
Yeah.
And I just decided that I never want to do this again. And whenever I'm going to find my next home, I will create an environment that nobody will be able to take away from us. And I will invite as many people to join as possible. And and thank you so much for going through our website and our concepts and everything. And I believe, like, of course, what is the arc today is not at all what it was planned in the beginning. And it's
Oh.
now the arc is 4 years young from the moment that I found this land, and the amount of iterations. And again, you're
Right.
in tech. The amount of iterations and changes and everything that is going. And the more we are growing, the more we're unlearning, decapitalizing, and going more into this kind of regenerative nature of what we are as a species and how we can live truly in balance with the natural flow and ebb of life, the more the arc is becoming a truly regenerative project. And it was not so in the beginning. It was like I kind of was following my heart and idea that was deeply there, but then it grew into more established kind, fixed
Yeah.
concepts. And what do we stand for? What is the change that we're bringing through creating the arc in the world? That it's not just like, a village in Costa Rica, but it's way larger movement. And we want to embody these changes for the similar projects in the world, how we can bring more regenerative economy principles in action.
Oh wow, that is interesting. Okay, so I also noticed one more thing in addition to everything that you just said, Marat. I know there was an option of the shared ownership
Yeah.
on the property, and I know it's huge. So I'm curious, how does that work, and how did you get that idea?
Yeah. It's first of all, we want to make this lifestyle or partial lifestyle as accessible for everyone as possible.
Okay.
So fractional ownership was kind of an idea of like Santa Teresa, where we are located, is pretty transitional place. A lot of people are coming seasonally, and not everybody wants to have a full ownership here.
Right.
So fractional ownership kind of became a logical idea that, like, we can give this, like, people can buy property in shares and stay for a certain amount of time. And also it seems that in general, the real estate market is kind of finding new ways how to make real estate more affordable. And people are, especially younger people, are now, they're not necessarily going towards full ownership. It's like, Gen Z is apparently is now way more successful than millennials. So we as millennials, we still have this idea of having your own base and everything. But as we are as a generation, apparently we are the worst generation to do it, because that is like we've seen it all, and we are kind of left on the suburbs of that. So and Gen Z is more of like, although they can afford, a lot of Gen Zers are way more successful in their time than millennials were, but at the same time they're looking for different options of ownership. So fractional ownership became this kind of idea to give this lifestyle to people 1 or 2 or 3 months a year without, like, full burden, or burden of full ownership.
Nice. Yeah, and you're right. You're right, Marat, because these days real estate game is changing. And I had a guest not too while ago called Ricardo Johnson, and he's the founder of Oasis. And he talks about the exact same thing where it's fractional ownership, but for luxury properties, but it's through tokenization and crypto and all that. And so it was very interesting. That was my first introduction to that world of fractional ownership. And now you are talking about the exact same thing. So it's very interesting to learn these concepts and to actually see with you and the ARC as an example that people are actually doing it.
Yeah.
And it is working. So you must be doing something right. That's awesome. But it is so nice though. I like how you've tied all areas, kept most of the things in mind, family and future and a nice place, seasonal tourists and all of that, and then created the arc. But I want to know personally, what part of arc is your favorite?
It's a great question. I think working with kids, we are now in January, we're opening our own school, which is called Arcadia, and it's a Montessori inspired education based on like self-learning and prepared environments for kids. And it always fascinated me to work with kids personally. I'm involved not as much into the school process, and to like I'm more of like general supervision, and there is a separate school team and everything. But at the same time, we all working on it, and I think this is the most heartwarming part, because when I started working on the idea of the arc, the question was like, if I am personally to live in this perfect kind of place, how is it going to look like? What is it going to be? And the question of kids, I don't have kids yet, and for me it's something that I'm looking forward to in life. And one of the reasons was like, if, as I said, right, like if we are going to give our kids education, and which system of knowledge we're going to raise them, what are they going to observe, what are they going to learn from the community? And sometimes, like, people can live in the cities and kids go to all these like great nature inspired schools, or like art inspired, like Waldorf is a great model, and then they're going out of this beautiful bubble into this highly consumerism capitalistic environment where they spend another 16 hours of their life outside of the school. So it creates this kind of this like kind of misconception of like, what I learn and what I see in practicality are totally different things. Yeah. So that's why, having a school inside of the project, for us, it's something that we can carry this, we can own, we can like, walk the walk, right, and not just like talk the talk, and kids can see the implementation of what they're absorbing in the school environment later on when they go into the social environment, because then it's it's practiced in life, and this is beautiful. And thinking about, I always reflect on and measure my personal life on the idea of like, if this physical reality is going to finish for me tomorrow, will I be happy with like, with what I'm leaving behind and how I lived my life? And right, this is very truly nurturing thought, because then you're like, yeah, I'm truly doing everything I can. And so so I think kids is on top of the list.
Wow, impressive. That is truly impressive, Marat. I think in the last just 18 to 20 minutes, you've captured so many aspects from so many different domains. And I think that is really impressive. For someone to go from a completely different environment to all these things, like, I don't know how are you managing it, but I'm pretty sure it must be very difficult. This is just very impressive to me. I am a big fan of out of the box learning, and I encourage that a lot because when I was young, even back home in India, even though we had the traditional schools and, exams and everything, I still had teachers who had a huge impact on me. And the only reason I remember what they taught me is because they went outside of the regular teaching styles to help us figure out what we're good at. And that's why everyone, no matter who comes to me, and if they ask me, what do you think is most important quality, or what is the most important thing that people should learn, and I'm like, schooling is so important. I tell all my relatives, my friends, whoever, they have kids, the schooling, that age, the environment that they're raised in, that is so crucial. And even myself, like, I have found myself going back to when I was a kid, going back to the principles that were taught to me, the morals, or the, trying to think outside the box. Like, they would force us to do things that we couldn't find in books. And Google was like, it was just starting, but still, like, oh, think, use your brain. And yeah, so wow, I think what you're doing is truly commendable, Marat. I think it takes a lot of willpower, and like you said, that dream and that mission that you have in your life, that what kind of a place do you want to leave? What kind of things you want to leave behind if you're no longer here tomorrow? And I think that's inspiring to me. You are kind of, I love the fact that you're covering business concepts, but also personal growth and self growth and journey. And this is just insane. I love it. I
Thank you.
absolutely love it. I am tempted to come visit Costa
Please
Rica now.
do. Please do.
Yeah.
Be our guest, please.
Yeah, this is just crazy. I mean, I love the community, especially that you've built. I saw the reviews and I saw everything online, and now that I'm talking to you, I feel even more inspired to go check out the place, because your intentions are so pure and they're so real. And I feel like in this day and age, that's so hard to find. Yes, there are a lot of companies, everybody, like you said in the beginning, everyone's doing it for the money, but there are some people out there, like very few out there, who actually want to do things or start things for a very different reason. And I think you're one of them. So kudos to
Thank
you
you.
for doing this. Kudos to you and your team for building such a great community with such inspiring thoughts and ideas behind it. I feel like more people need to think about this kind of institutions, and also think about why are they doing it, not for money, not for the aesthetics, not for, oh, this is trending right now, so I'm going to do it. No,
Yeah.
but what's exactly your why? And I
Yeah.
think you're explaining it so well. This is great.
Thank
I
you.
want to ask you, Marat, what was the most difficult thing for you in the last 4 years in this journey?
I think I always say that the years 22 and 23 were the most difficult years of my life so far. I hope it's gonna stay like that. Because when I found this land, and 21, we were still in pandemic kind of mode, so the
Yeah.
idea of people going outside and living in nature was very strong, and people were confronting the government, which we're actually seeing coming back now. But in 22, and when this experiment, or whatever people want to call it, as pandemic, was kind of officially over, and people got back to traveling, and for me personally, I always like to think and to reflect on large concepts and ideas. And for me, that was a huge social experiment that happened when the moment governments allowed people to travel, people immediately forgot the horror of last 2 years, and people immediately started, and we haven't even realized how the agenda of going back to normality was pushed on us, and everybody started, like, we're trying to kind of forget everything and start living as normal. And I honestly see that a pandemic, in a sense, was kind of collapse of our civilization as we know it, and nothing is going since normal. There is nothing normal in that. The way how, like, all businesses started to operate, everything, right? It broke so many social constructs. It broke not just businesses and economies, it broke the way we relate to each other,
Right.
You remember these crazy times when people
Yeah.
were like not meeting each other in the family if you're vaccinated or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when people were putting in dating profiles that they're vaccinated and they were not meeting.
Yeah.
The craziness of this thought, how governments in a second divided us, how they brought
Yeah.
this kind of separation, we kind of forgot in 22. And I was full on in the project already from from middle of 21. So I was doing a lot of, at that time I decided that I'm going to sell. I was doing a lot of stock investment. And so like I
Right.
decided I'm going to sell my crypto and my positions and my shares and everything and my real estate. And I'm going to go full in creating this project, the ARC. And in 22, the market crashed. The real estate market crashed. People started traveling and wanted to get back to the cities and to forget about everything as a bad dream.
Yeah.
And the market was very low, 22, 23. And for me personally, it felt like if I committed a huge mistake. And now looking back, of course, I'm like, oh, so great that I persevered. In the moment, it was cringing in my bed and being terrified of the fear of like, what have I done? Like,
Right.
what have I done again with my life? I was just like, I was living a happy life without any problems, and why the heck I had to go to Costa Rica and to
Yeah.
and it's not that oh, everything is flowing so easy. No, Costa Rica challenges you a lot. It's a very challenging environment. It's a very challenging country. Like, people love the idea of coming here for like 1 week vacation, relocating and doing business in the country that you don't know, with a mentality that you yet don't understand at that time, with very few supporters back then. And we honestly, we had zero sales in the years 22 and 23, zero. So I had to invest everything that I had and to drag the operations through my own funding. I had that time, I had also a business partner. We separated at the beginning of 23 because it was challenging, and totally understandable. We maintained the friendship and all was great. But there were moments, when you're like facing the collapse after collapse after collapse. And it was not pleasant at all, zero. and, if at that moment you would ask me and be like, hey, you want to reverse back time and go back? I would be like, yes. I would not think a single second. Believe me, Sheekha. I would be like, please do it. And thankfully, time machine doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the
And
perseverance,
at
and it's
least
all
till now. Yeah.
at least, yeah, at least till now, at least till now. So like, thankfully, perseverance and dedication like paid off, and 24 has changed everything completely. People started seeing what the arc is truly is, and I want to believe that we were doing things very right from the very beginning and making correct steps, and we were not rushing into large publicity and marketing and PR, but rather we were doing a lot of work on the ground. We got immediately into regeneration of the soil, creating the farm, building infrastructure. So we made very correct steps, I believe. And I'm eternally grateful to the team who carried it through. And here we are now. It's a concept that whenever I go traveling, people sometimes even stop me and see me in the cafe, and they're like, hey, I know you're doing this project. I'm like, oh wait, I'm in a random place in Lisbon now. So it is great, and I believe we are kind of starting following or embodying this higher purpose that we have of being this blueprint for other projects to follow, how they can
Nice.
embrace this regenerative economy principles in practice. And people started finally now reaching out and asking me to be on the board of their communities and to help them. And I'm like, guys,
Wow.
2 years ago we were like, oh my god, every day we're going bankrupt and it's complicated, but then we persevered, and great, thankfully we don't have investors. The arc it's not for profit, non-investment model.
Wow.
So it's a revolutionary on many levels. And it's never easy, and I cannot tell you, Sheekha, now that oh my god, now it's a walk in the park. Of
Right.
course, no. And I hope it's eventually going to be a walk in the park. But now it's not a walk in the park when we are, when we are many of us and we are doing it all together. And now I think for me personally, as the founder of this project, for me, it's the main support is the emotional reaction and the fact that people are joining, and then you understanding that, you are not alone in this, and people truly want that. And maybe they
Right.
yet don't understand that, but when they
Right.
feel it, when they are getting in touch with us, when they're touching the art, when they experience the lifestyle of that is, then they're like, oh my god, that's what I've been looking for, and that's what my soul is craving.
Awesome. Wow. Wow. This is transformational, Mar. I have to tell you. And I think you brought up a very great point. You know how you said, yes, those 2 years when the sales was zero, it was very difficult. But a lot of people forget that. They talk about your success, everything that you've achieved now. But all the business owners, they feel like, oh, that's a successful business. But nobody talks about how you went 2 years just having zero sales. And that's what made what you are today. And it kind of paved the way for your success there. And I feel there's a very important learning for everybody, not just business owners, but anybody who's trying to start anything new in the beginning. You have to be ready for everything. And you have to be ready for resistance. You have to be ready to have zero sales, to have no sales for a long time. And then I think the most important thing is you need to believe in your reason and your mission, like you did. Like you said, you felt like you guys did everything right from the beginning. And I feel that's what's needed. And that's the point where most of the businesses fail because they don't trust it. Oh, it's not working. We are not getting sales in the last 2 years, which means our business model is not working. It's not perfect. So let's move on to the next one. And they give up. But you didn't. And I think that's awesome. This is great. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Marat, for sharing all your experiences, your values, and your reason and your passion is so evident. And I feel like this is what people need to hear. And this is what people need to cultivate inside them whenever they're trying to start a new project or a new business or whatever that is. Even if it's a book, why are you doing it? And how do you personally feel as the founder, creator, or owner of that whole project? And you showcased that immaculately and so perfectly. And it was so obvious that it was, the way you talk, the way you describe about the arc and your experiences, your challenges are all very authentic. And I love that. And I think that's commendable. So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much.
sharing that with us, Marat. Before we end the show, is there anything that you want to share? Any thoughts or suggestions for our listeners or viewers?
Well, I think thank you so much. First of all, Shikha, it's been great, and yeah, it's a great chance to share. I really love the podcast format because it gives this like opening, and
Yep.
it's not like a small tweet or something. And yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I believe sharing is it's just an invitation to listen to this true calling. What is that voice inside of you, not the programmed voice. And it's hard to distinguish in a sense, right? Like, when the traumas are talking, on where the ego is talking. But actually, I believe we all have it inside of us, the voice that we know that is, authentic, that it's there, and it's calling us to do that authentic work. And for us to like keep understanding ourselves, like not to stop asking ourselves questions, and like to go and connect more with our humanity as part of this amazing, insane world and universe, and like, in understanding us as part of the whole rather than owners of this beautiful planet, and act through that, right? Like act through that oneness with each other and with nature. And then the world is just going to be a much 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 better place. But more than anything, I believe it's complicated for very often for people to imagine that, like, oh, how my alignment with the universe is going to result in a better world. But actually, your alignment with the universe is going to result in a better you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Marat. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Really, thank you for just sharing everything with us today.
Thank you so much, Ika.
Of
I'm excited
course.
for this episode.
Thank you to everybody who streamed and is now a part of the community. You've been inspired by this episode, and there's a lot of guests lined up in the future and a lot of exciting news too. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode of Rise and Tell with Shikha. My book, Unburnable Ambition, is all about how to chase your biggest goals without losing yourself to burnout. You can now sign up at shikhasingh.com/unburnable ambition. Until next time, keep growing, keep glowing, and be yourself, and keep your ambition unburnable. Thank you.